Okay, so before we do the drywall, let's go over the waterproofing and overcoming the tub flange. So one of the things I want to explain to you here is this tub flange is obviously sticking outside of the stud area, and you wouldn't want to be just sliding the board over top of the flange and having it bow out on the corner, because basically what that would do is create like an unevenness. It'd be kind of beveled a little bit. So one of the best solutions to do that is just to use some 1/4 inch plywood material or shims, whatever you have that's 1/4 inch thick. Put that up against the studs, and then you'll be able to overcome that tub flange. And then since we have all the studs out, this is one of the reasons I love taking all of the drywall out, because it makes it easy to get things ready to transition between your backer board and your drywall. So, you know, paying attention to how thick of a furring strip you need. On this particular situation, I have almost a 1/2 inch that I have to overcome. So what I'll do is I'll fur out this entire wall a 1/2 inch so that the wall is even with another, and then I'll be able to overcome the tub flange as that board comes down over top of the tub. But you want to get some kind of blocking here. We're going to need some additional framing because you want to have something to screw the go board to and the actual drywall coming down. We also want something on this side to catch the drywall, so we'll just get a regular 2x4 on this side. So 88 3/8. Okay, you good? All right, so before you go putting some furring strips up, you want to make sure that your studs are all in line with one another. And I would say anything that is out a 1/4 inch or more is when you really need to address this. But the main reason I'm making sure that this is flat is because when you go to set tile, it makes it a lot easier when you have a nice flat wall, because then you can just use consistent thin set coverage on the wall and just set your tile, and it will be kind of pretty easy to make it lipid free. So you really want to double check with a straight edge. I have a 6-foot level. You don't obviously need a 6-foot level. You can just use any type of straight edge, but you just want to make sure that you're looking at, this is about 1/4 inch here. So I could probably just add another layer. And it's not quite a 1/4 inch. I might be able to move that stud out a little bit. But, you know, there's a couple ways you can address it being off, and one would be to plane the stud that you need with a power planer, or you could just add an additional shim to the stud that's low. But like I said, anything that's 1/4 inch is not really worth addressing, and you'll be fine with without having to do that. Okay, so go ahead and put these furring strips just above those fender washers. I don't want to put them over the fender washers, you'll bow them out. So basically you just got 71.5 inch pieces. So I'm just going to use a roofing gun, but you can obviously just use screws to do this. Okay, so then if you have plumbing and wires like this that are really close to the edge of the stud, it's a good idea to put these nail plates on here, because this will prevent you from accidentally nailing into them, which is extremely likely in this scenario, because you're definitely going to forget where this pipe is. So we need to protect all of these pipes because it's like less than an inch. So you can definitely put a screw or a nail right into that. So we'll put these on every.
Would that make a good Instagram?
Yeah. I feel like it's been. Okay, so this is the 1/2 inch stuff because I had a little bit more of a overhang on the wider opening here. Okay, so if you ran a wire in a corner like this is sometimes the easiest way to do it is just to notch it out and then just stick some metal plates over that corner. So the only other thing you want to reference is just making sure everything's within 16 inches on center. Most backer boards are going to require that. So as you can see, I have 13 here, and so we're fine with everything else. So this will be our niche. So we'll go ahead and start the waterproofing next. Okay, so we're going to install Go board as our waterproofing for the tub surround. I really like this stuff because it's really affordable. I think, you know, as a contractor's price, it's about 25 bucks a sheet. It's probably going to date this, but it's really almost half as much as a lot of the other boards. And it really just does the exact same thing. It gets you a waterproofing backer board for your tile. And it's light, it's foam. You can just cut it with a utility knife. That's all you really need. And we can make a custom niche out of it as well. So there's really only a few components that really come with it. Or that you need to buy with it, and that is just regular door rock screws. So you want to make sure you have the alkaline resistant screws. Just make sure that they are made for door rock or cement board. I usually go with the 1 5/8 stuff for the 1/2 inch board. And then you just need a tube of sealant, not just one, but you're going to need, typically I just go 1 tube per sheet. That usually gives me way more than enough than I need. So make sure you get the sealant as well. And then I like using a little corner trowel. This helps smooth the sealant in the corners, and then just a standard 4-inch knife. So that's all you really need for this, pretty basic. But let's go ahead and get our backboard on here. So we're at 59 3/4. Doesn't have to be perfect, because it's going to go in the corner anyways. So now that we have their shims up here, now we'll be able to slide this right over the top of the tub flange. So what I would do is put a nice generous bead of sealant on the tub deck, right where that board is going to meet right in there. So if you don't see the sealant oozing out, I would raise this up and get more underneath of there. So I'm all right over here, but I don't really have enough on this other side. There you go. So you can see it oozing out of there. That's kind of what you want. Okay, so then you're just going to be doing these every 8 to 12 inches. They actually have it marked out here. where that... That's exactly why you have those nail plates in there. I was going to go screw right into that pipe. So it's a good thing that that nail plate's right there. Where the board meets the board, you just put a nice big caulk joint on top of the board. Nice big bead on this top deck too. And all the way up the corner. To the back of the niche, just make sure nothing's going to bump it out, but I'm obviously not going to be able to screw into my drywall, so we're just going to put some excess sealant and just bond that to the back of the drywall. Okay, so the plumbing wall, we have drywall, we have a door jamb, and so we have 1/2 inch that we're butting up to. So we're not going to be able to go over the flange. So the way that we're going to address this is just to keep this up just above the flange where it flares out. So just holding it up above the flange, and then we'll fill this in with the sealant afterwards. So that basically you don't want to bellow it out. You just want to go straight to the top of these fender washers. But the main reason I didn't want to fur this out is because you would need extension jambs for your trim, and that's usually a really bad idea for, especially on an inside of a door, because your door latch will hit the extension jamb and it will always take the paint off of it. So it's a really good idea to prevent from having any type of extension jamb on the inside of your doors. into our pipe. Just holding our board, keep our board against here. And then you have the indentation of where our valve is, so we'll cut a 4.5 inch hole around that. Okay, so I'm going to put some sealant all the way along this whole sill and then all the way along here, so that when I embed this, I can make sure it's sloped. This is pitching towards the shower. Seal around this pipe. I'm just not sure you're waterproofed around your this whole area will just get filled with sealant. you can also do that for the pipe if you want to get some extra insurance on this. It's not a bad idea to always have a little bit more coverage. So for this seam, what we're going to do is use some Schluter membrane right over the seam between the drywall and the wall. Now this is definitely going to be extending out past where my tile work is going to be, and I'm doing that purposely because I want to have everything from the tile layer in completely waterproof. And anything that's sticking out of this, you can just use drywall mud just as if this was regular seam tape to go right down it.